The hospital ship Hana floated silently above the broken world of Vareth Prime. From space, the planet looked sick. Smoke rose from burning cities. Flashes of light marked where bombs still fell. A civil war had torn this world apart for 3 years now. Millions had already died. Millions more would follow. But the Hana was not here to fight. The ship carried no weapons. Its hull was painted bright white with the universal medical symbol that every species in the galaxy recognized. This symbol meant one thing. We are here to heal, not to harm. Captain Park Jin-ho stood on the bridge and watched the planet below. He was 52 years old with gray hair and tired eyes. He had served in the Earth Defense Fleet for 30 years. He had fought in 2 wars and commanded warships that could destroy cities. But 5 years ago, he had asked for a transfer. He was done with killing. He wanted to save lives instead. "Captain, we have another transport coming up from the surface," said Lieutenant Yoon Tae-woo. The young communications officer looked at his screen. 47 wounded. Mostly civilians. Some children. Jun-ho nodded slowly. "Tell Medical Bay to prepare." "And Lieutenant? Make sure our neutral broadcast is still running on all frequencies." "It has been running for 6 days straight, sir." "Everyone knows we are a hospital ship." "Good. Keep it running anyway." The Hana was not a small ship. It was 800 meters long and could hold 3,000 patients. Right now, it held 2,400. Some were human colonists from the settlements on Vareth Prime. Some were Vareth natives, the insect-like species that called this planet home. Some were even soldiers from both sides of the Civil War. In the medical bays of the Hana, there were no enemies. There were only patients. Dr. Kim Yoonji walked through Ward 7 with her tablet in hand. She had been awake for 19 hours, but she did not feel tired. There was too much work to do. She stopped beside a bed where a young Vareth female lay wrapped in bandages. The patient's forearms were burned badly. Her compound eyes were dull with pain. "How are you feeling today?" Yoonji asked gently. The Vareth made a clicking sound that the translator turned into words. "Pain. Much pain. But less than yesterday." Yoonji smiled. "That means you are healing. The grafts are taking well. You will have scars, but you will live. You will be able to hold your children again." The Vareth's eyes brightened slightly. "You saved me. Why?" "I am not human. I am a doctor. I save everyone." This was the human way. Yoonji had learned it from her teachers, who had learned it from their teachers, going back hundreds of years. When you have the power to help, you help. It does not matter who is hurting. It does not matter what side they are on. You help. In the operating room on Deck 12, Yoonji performed her most difficult surgery yet. The patient was Elder Vareth, one of the oldest and most respected leaders of the Vareth people. A bomb had torn through his body. Most doctors would have said he was beyond saving. Yoonji refused to accept this. For 9 hours she worked. She rebuilt organs that were barely there. She reconnected nerves that had been torn apart. She used techniques that she had invented herself. When she finally stepped back from the table, the elders' hearts were beating strong. "He will live," she told her team. "He will need months of recovery, but he will live." The news spread quickly. A human doctor had saved Elder Vareth. The Vareth people sent messages of thanks. Even the leaders fighting the Civil War paused to acknowledge what the humans had done. For a brief moment, there was hope that maybe peace was possible, but not everyone saw human kindness as a good thing. Far away, in a dark corner of the galaxy, the Kath Dominion watched. The Kath were reptilian creatures with scales like armor and teeth like knives. They had built their empire through war and conquest. They believed that strength was the only thing that mattered. The weak existed to serve the strong. Compassion was a disease. Commander, Reth watched the reports from Vareth Prime. His yellow eyes narrowed as he saw images of human doctors treating wounded aliens. He saw the hospital ship with no weapons. He saw humans risking their lives to save creatures that were not even their own species. Disgusting, he hissed. The humans are weak. They waste their resources on the dying. His second officer stood nearby. Should we report this to the High Sovereign? Yes. Tell him that I have found a perfect target. A hospital ship. No weapons. No escorts. Full of helpless humans. If we destroy it, we will show the galaxy what happens to the weak. We will show them that compassion is death. The second officer hesitated. The Galactic Compact has rules about medical ships. They are protected. Reth laughed. It was a cold, harsh sound. Rules are for the weak. The strong make their own rules. Prepare my fleet. We attack in 3 days. Back on Mahana, nobody knew what was coming. The crew continued their work. They saved lives. They healed wounds. They gave hope to people who had lost everything. Captain Junho stood at the window of his quarters and looked at the stars. He thought about all the people on his ship. The doctors and nurses who worked without rest. The patients who fought to survive. The refugees who had nowhere else to go. We are doing good work here, he said softly to himself. This is what humans should be. Healers, not killers. He did not know that in 3 days, his ship would be surrounded by enemies. He did not know that his kindness would be seen as weakness. He did not know that he would be asked to kneel before a monster. On the bridge, Lieutenant Taiwu suddenly looked up from his screen. His face went pale. Captain to the bridge, he said into the communicator. Captain to the bridge immediately. Junho rushed to the bridge. What is it? Taiwu pointed at his screen with a shaking hand. Sir, I am picking up multiple hyperspace signatures. They are coming out of jump right now. 15 ships. No, 20. Sir, they are not broadcasting any identification. The view screen flickered. Then it showed them. 20 warships, dark and angular, covered in weapons. They were Keth Dominion vessels. And they were powering up their guns. Junho felt his blood go cold. But he stood tall. He opened a channel to broadcast on all frequencies. This is Captain Park Junho of the United Earth Medical Ship Hana. We are a neutral vessel providing humanitarian aid. We carry no weapons. We have wounded from all species aboard. Please identify yourselves and state your intentions. The only response was the glow of charging weapons. The nightmare was about to begin. Captain Junho broadcast his message again. His voice was calm and steady, even though his heart was pounding. This is a medical ship. We carry no weapons. We are protected under the Galactic Compact. Please respond. Silence. The 20 Keth warships hung in space like predators circling wounded prey. Their weapons glowed bright with deadly energy. Lieutenant Taiwu looked at his captain. Sir, they are not responding. Their targeting systems are locked on us. Keep trying. All frequencies. All languages. But Junho already knew. He had seen war. He knew what hunters looked like when they had found their kill. The Keth were not here to talk. They were here to murder. On the command ship of the Keth fleet, Commander Reth smiled with his rows of sharp teeth. He listened to the human captain begging for mercy. The sound pleased him. Look at them, he said to his officers. They do not even try to run. They are so confident that their little rules will protect them. They believe that kindness is a shield. Should we answer their call, Commander? Asked his weapons officer. No, let them beg. Let them understand that their compassion has made them weak. Then destroy them. Back on the Hana, Nurse Han Suman was in the children's ward when the alarm started screaming. Red lights flashed everywhere. The young nurse looked at the 23 children in her care. Some were human. Some were Vareth. All of them were scared. "What is happening?" asked a small human boy named June. Suman forced herself to smile. "It is just a drill. Everyone stay calm. Come, let us move to the safe area." She did not believe her own words. She had heard the emergency codes. She knew what Code Black meant. But she could not show fear. Not in front of the children. On the bridge, Ensign Beak Jiho sat at the helm controls. His hands were shaking. The young pilot had never been in combat before. He had joined the medical service because he wanted to help people, not fight. "Captain, I can try evasive maneuvers. Maybe we can." Junho shook his head. "We are a hospital ship, Ensign. We are not built for speed. We would never outrun them." He paused. "But prepare engines anyway. If there is any chance to save even some of our people." "Yes, sir." Commander Reth grew tired of waiting. He raised his clawed hand and brought it down. Fire. The first blast hit the Hana like the fist of an angry god. The ship screamed as metal tore apart. The bridge shook so hard that several officers fell to the floor. Sparks flew from broken consoles. The lights flickered and died, replaced by dim emergency lighting. "Hull breach on deck 7 through 12, shouted Taiwu. "We have lost medical bays 4, 5, and 6. Casualty reports coming in." "Sir, there are hundreds dead already." John Ho grabbed his command chair to stay standing. "Get a distress signal out. Now, send everything. Video, audio, everything. Earth needs to know what is happening here." "I am trying, sir." "They are jamming most frequencies, but I think I can." Another blast hit the ship. Then another. The Cath were not trying to disable the Hana. They were trying to tear it apart piece by piece. In the children's ward, the ceiling collapsed. Sumin threw herself over 3 small children as metal and fire rained down. She felt burning pain across her back and shoulders. But she did not move. She would not move. These children would live. She would make sure of it. "Stay down," she screamed. "Everyone stay down." The little boy June was crying. Suman pulled him close with one arm while shielding another child with her body. Through the smoke and chaos, she saw other nurses doing the same thing. They were human shields, made of flesh and determination. Dr. Yoonji was in surgery when the attack began. Her patient was on the table, chest open, heart exposed. She could not stop. If she stopped, the patient would die. "Everyone hold your positions," she ordered. "Keep the equipment stable." Another explosion rocked the ship. One of her assistants fell. Medical tools scattered across the floor. But Yoonji kept working. Her hands were steady even as the world fell apart around her. "I will not let you die," she whispered to her patient. "Not like this. Not today." On the bridge, Taiwu finally broke through the jamming. "Captain, I got a signal out. Earth will receive it in 6 hours." Junho felt a small spark of hope. At least the galaxy would know what happened here. At least these deaths would not be silent. "Good work, Lieutenant." Now, the view screen showed Keth boarding ships launching from the warships. They were not satisfied with destroying the Hana from a distance. They were coming to finish the job in person. "They are boarding us," Junho said quietly. "They want to kill us with their own hands." The Keth soldiers cut through the hull like it was paper. They poured into the ship with guns and blades. They did not ask for surrender. They did not take prisoners. They killed everything they found. A Keth squad burst into Medical Bay 2. They found 30 patients lying in beds, too wounded to move. The patients begged for mercy. The Keth gave them none. The sound of screaming filled the corridors. Another squad found a group of doctors trying to evacuate patients. The doctors stood between the Keth and their patients. They had no weapons. They had only their bodies and their oath to protect life. "Please," said one doctor, a young man named Li Dongyun. "These people are helpless. They are not soldiers. They are just—" The Keth shot him first. Then they killed everyone behind him. Commander Reth personally led a squad to the bridge. He wanted to meet the human captain. He wanted to see the face of human weakness up close. The bridge doors exploded inward. Keth soldiers flooded in. The few security officers on board fought back, but they were outnumbered and outgunned. One by one, they fell. Junho stood alone in the middle of his dying bridge. His crew was dead or dying around him. Blood covered the floor. But he did not run. He would not run. Reth walked toward him slowly, enjoying the moment. The Keth commander was huge, covered in black scales that looked like armor. His yellow eyes glowed with cruel pleasure. "You are the captain," Reth said. "The one who was begging for mercy." "I was not begging. I was giving you a chance to be better than this." Reth laughed. "Better? We are already better. We are strong. You are weak. Your kindness has killed your crew. My kindness has saved thousands of lives. And now those lives end. Because you were too weak to protect them. Because you wasted your strength on helping others instead of building weapons." Reth pulled out a long curved blade. "Kneel, human. Beg me for a quick death." Junho looked at the monster in front of him. He thought about his crew. He thought about the patients who trusted him. He thought about Sumin, protecting children with her own body. He thought about Yunji, fighting to save lives even as the ship died. "I will not kneel to you," Junho said quietly. "I am a healer. I save lives. That is not weakness. That is the greatest strength there is. And even if you kill me, even if you kill everyone on this ship, you will never understand that. You will always be empty. You will always be afraid. Because monsters deep down, that kindness is stronger than cruelty." Reth's eyes narrowed with rage. He raised his blade and brought it down. The last thing Junho saw was the stars through the broken view screen. He died standing. He died on Broken Dot in the cargo hold at the bottom of the ship. 127 survivors huddled in darkness. They had found a place the Keth had not searched yet. They listened to the sounds of death above them. They held each other and prayed. Among them was Nurse Sumin, badly burned but alive. She had saved 11 children. They clung to her now, silent and terrified. 6 hours later, the distress signal reached Earth. Every screen, every device, every display showed the same thing. The Hana burning. Captain Junho standing tall against monsters. The screams of patients being murdered. The last words of a good man dying for what he believed. Earth went silent. Billions of humans watched. Billions of humans felt their hearts break. And then billions of humans felt something else rise inside them. Something cold. Something ancient. Something terrible. Humanity had shown the galaxy its mercy for 300 years. Now the galaxy would see something different. Now the galaxy would see human wrath. The video played on every screen on Earth. It played in homes and offices. It played on giant displays in city centers. It played on small devices held in trembling hands. Everywhere, humans watched the same horror. They saw the Hana burning. They saw Keth soldiers murdering helpless patients. They saw doctors and nurses standing between monsters and the wounded, dying for their oath. They saw Captain Park Junho refuse to kneel. They saw him fall. When the video ended, there was silence. Not just in one city or one country. Across the entire planet, across all of human space, there was silence. Billions of people sat in shock. They could not speak. They could not move. They could only feel Dot in Seoul. An old woman watched the footage with tears running down her face. Her grandson had been a nurse on the Hana. Now he was dead. She had no words. She had only grief that felt like it would never end. Dot in New York. A father turned off the screen because his children were crying. But he could not stop thinking about what he had seen. His hand shook with a feeling he did not want to name. Dot in Tokyo, in London, in Cairo, in 1,000 cities across Earth and the colonies. The reaction was the same. First came sorrow. Then came something else. Something darker. President Munari stood before the United Earth Council. The Great Hall was packed with representatives from every nation and every human colony. Their faces were hard. Their eyes were wet. They had all watched the same video. Nar, I was 61 years old with silver hair and a voice that had always been calm and measured. She had built her career on diplomacy and peace. She had always believed that talking was better than fighting. But today, something was different. Today, her voice was cold as winter wind. 3 days ago, she began, the Keth Dominion attacked the medical ship Hana without warning or provocation. They destroyed a vessel clearly marked as a hospital ship. They murdered 3,673 patients, doctors, and crew. They killed healers. They killed children. She paused. The silence in the hall was heavy enough to crush stone. The Keth believed our compassion was weakness. They believed our mercy was something they could exploit. They believed wrong. She looked directly at the cameras, directly at billions of watching humans. For 300 years, humanity has followed the covenant of restraint. We created weapons that could break worlds. We built ships that could darken suns. And then we chose, freely and completely, to never use them. We chose peace. We chose to be healers instead of killers. We chose to lift others up instead of pushing them down. Her voice grew harder. The Keth have seen our gentle hand. Now they will see the other one. The great hall erupted. Not with applause, but with a sound like a war drum. The representatives were stamping their feet, a rhythm that shook the walls. It was an ancient human tradition. It was the sound of a people preparing for war. Deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, in a facility that did not officially exist, Dr. Kwon Minho received a message with the highest security clearance. The message contained only 2 words. Jigok authorized. Minho's hands trembled as he read it. Jigok meant hell in Korean. It was the name of a project that had been sealed away for 200 years. It was the name of weapons so terrible that the humans who created them had sworn they would never be used. Open Vault 7, Minho said quietly. The scientists around him exchanged nervous glances. Sir, are you sure? The Jigok weapons are. I know what they are. I helped design some of them. Open the vault. The massive doors slid apart. Behind them was darkness. Then lights flickered on, revealing rows upon rows of sealed containers. Inside each container was something humanity had hoped would never see the light of day. Gravity, bombs that could crush warships into objects the size of marbles. Virus weapons that could turn enemy computer systems into screaming chaos. Hunter drones that could chase targets across star systems and never stop until they were destroyed or their targets were dead. And worse things. Much worse things. May the universe forgive us for what we are about to do. Minho whispered. Admiral Choi Sung-woo stood in the command center of the Earth Defense Fleet headquarters. Around him, hundreds of officers worked at their stations. Holographic displays showed ship positions across all of human space. Sung-woo was a quiet man. He did not shout. He did not make dramatic speeches. He simply gave orders and expected them to be followed. He had commanded the defense fleet for 15 years. In that time, he had never fired a shot in anger. He had always hoped he never would. That hope died 3 days ago. Status report, he said calmly. All active fleet units are responding, Admiral. 4,000 warships are ready for immediate deployment. Another 8,000 can be mobilized within 72 hours. What about civilian ships? The officer hesitated. Sir, we have received over 60,000 requests from civilian captains asking to join the fleet. Cargo ships, transports, mining vessels. They all want to fight. Sunwoo nodded slowly. Except anyone with combat-capable ships. Give them the coordinates for the assembly point. Sir, many of them have no military training. They know how to fly. They know how to die. That is enough. Accept them all. The response to the call to arms exceeded anything in human history. Ships came from everywhere. Military vessels. Corporate ships. Private yachts armed with whatever weapons their owners could find. Old ships that should have been scrapped years ago flew again, held together by willpower and rage thought in the shipyards of Mars. Workers who should have been resting volunteered for triple shifts. They built new warships at impossible speed. They modified civilian ships into weapons platforms. They worked until they collapsed, then got up and worked more. On a colony world called New Bison, a retired admiral named Pat Ga came out of retirement. She was 78 years old. Her doctors told her she was too old to fight. She told her doctors to be quiet and find her a ship. I watched my grandson die on that video, she said. I will watch the Keth pay for it. Across human space, the same scene repeated countless times. Old soldiers found their weapons. Young people who had never fought volunteered by the millions. Families who had lost loved ones demanded to be part of the response. And then, when the fleet was gathered, Admiral Sunwoo sent a message to the Keth Dominion. It was simple. It contained the names of every single person who had died on the Hada. 3,673 names. After the names came 3 words: "We are coming." The Keth High Sovereign received the message in his throne room. He'd read the names. He'd read the threat. And for the first time in his long life, he felt something cold in his stomach. How many ships do the humans have? He asked. Our intelligence suggests approximately 12,000, High Sovereign. 12,000? The High Sovereign's scales paled. We have 8,000. And the humans? The stories say they were warriors once. Terrible warriors before they chose peace. Stories, High Sovereign. Just stories. But they both knew the stories were true. 300 years ago, humans had almost destroyed themselves in wars so terrible that they scarred their own planet. They had stopped only when they realized they were becoming monsters. They had chosen peace not because they were weak, but because they were too strong, too dangerous. They had locked away their weapons and their warrior spirits. Now someone had unlocked them. In the Galactic Compact headquarters, representatives of 47 species watched the news with growing terror. They saw the human fleet gathering. They saw the weapons being unsealed. They saw humanity preparing for total war. Should we intervene? Asked the Verith ambassador. How? Replied another. The Keth attacked a hospital ship. They murdered healers. By every law and moral standard, the humans have the right to respond. And even if we wanted to stop them, could we? No one had an answer, because they all knew the truth. For 300 years, the galaxy had known humans as kind, gentle creatures who helped everyone and fought no one. They had forgotten what humans were before that dawn. Now they were about to be reminded. Admiral Sunwoo stood on the bridge of his flagship, the battleship Fury of Earth. Around him, 12,000 ships waited information. It was the largest fleet humanity had ever assembled. And it was filled with the most dangerous thing in the universe. Humans who had nothing left to lose. Set course for Keth space, Sunwoo said quietly. We have work to do. The fleet jumped to hyperspace. 12,000 engines lit up the darkness. 12,000 ships carrying the wrath of humanity screamed toward the Keth Dominion. The galaxy held its breath. The reckoning was coming. The human fleet emerged from hyperspace above Keth Prime. 12,000 ships spread across the void like a wave of steel and fire. At the center flew the Fury of Earth, Admiral Sun Wu's flagship. Around it, battleships and cruisers formed walls of weapons. Behind them came carriers, launching thousands of small fighters. And behind those came the civilian ships, cargo vessels and transports now armed with death. The Keth were waiting for them. 8,000 Keth warships formed a defensive line around their homeworld. They had been preparing for this moment since they received the human message. The High Sovereign himself watched from his palace on Keth Prime. He had told his people that the humans were weak. He had told them that this would be an easy victory. He was about to learn how wrong he was. Admiral Sun Wu stood calmly on his bridge. Around him, officers ran final checks on weapon systems. Holographic displays showed the enemy positions. The two fleets faced each other across 1,000,000 kilometers of empty space. "Open a channel to the Keth commander," Sun Wu said. The screen flickered. Commander Reth's face appeared. He was the same monster who had killed Captain Junho. He smiled with his rows of sharp teeth. "Admiral, you came to die. How convenient." Sun Wu's expression did not change. "Commander Reth, I offer you one chance. Surrender yourself and all officers involved in the Hana attack. Face trial for your crimes. Do this and your people will be spared." Reth laughed. The sound was cold and mocking. "You threaten us? Look around you, human. You may have more ships, but we are Keth. We are born warriors. You are healers and farmers. This battle is already won. Is that your answer?" "My answer is that I will hang your corpse from my bridge as a trophy. Just like I killed your precious Captain Junho." Something changed in Sun Wu's eyes. It was subtle, barely visible, but it made Reth's laugh die in his throat. "Thank you for your answer," Sun Wu said quietly. "May whatever gods you worship have mercy on you, because we will not." The channel closed. "All ships," Sun Wu commanded. "Begin the attack. Weapons free." Captain Yu Haiyun commanded the battleship Retribution. She was at the front of the vanguard, the first ships that would meet the enemy. Her crew was young and angry. They had all lost friends or family on the Hana. "Forward engines to maximum," she ordered. "Bring us into firing range." The Retribution screamed toward the Keth line. Behind her came 300 ships, all flying in a wedge formation designed to punch through enemy defenses. The Keth opened fire. Space lit up with energy beams and missiles. "Shields holding," reported her tactical officer. "Enemy fire is heavy, but I can see. Hold course. Wait for my command." The Retribution shook as enemy fire hit her shields. Haiyun gripped her command chair and waited. Closer. Closer. The Keth line was right in front of them now. "Now, all batteries. Fire." The human ships unleashed everything they had. Plasma cannons, rail guns, missile swarms. But that was not the true attack. The true attack came from the Jigok, weapons that had been sealed for 200 years. The first gravity bomb detonated in the center of the Keth formation. It created a tiny black hole that lasted only 3 seconds. But 3 seconds was enough. 12 Keth warships were pulled into the singularity and crushed into objects smaller than dust. The Keth formation broke apart in confusion. They had never seen anything like this. No species had ever created such a weapon. They did not know humans had buried this technology, hoping it would never be used. "Press the attack," Haiyun shouted. "Do not let them regroup." Lieutenant Park Daeho flew with the fighter squadrons. His small ship, the Dagger 7, weaved through enemy fire with desperate speed. He was 26 years old. Captain Park Jun-ho had been his father. Dae-ho had been off-world when the Hana was attacked. He had watched his father die on a video screen, unable to do anything. For 3 days, he had not eaten. He had not slept. He had only prepared. Now he was here, among the stars, hunting the monsters who had killed his father. "Dagger Squadron, form up on me," he said through the communicator. "Target, the enemy flagship. We are going after Reth. That ship is heavily defended, Lieutenant. We might not make it." "I know. Follow me anyway." 30 human fighters turned toward the massive Keth command ship. Enemy interceptors moved to block them. Laser fire filled the space between them. Dae-ho flew like a demon. He dodged and weaved through impossible spaces. Enemy ships exploded around him, hit by his wingmates or destroyed by their own friendly fire as they tried to catch him. One by one, his squadron fell. 20 ships. 10 ships. 5 ships died. He did not stop. He could not stop. The Keth flagship loomed before him. Its hull was covered with weapons that all turned toward his tiny fighter. He should have been afraid. He felt nothing but cold purpose. "This is for the Hana. This is for everyone you murdered. This is for my father." He fired everything his fighter carried directly into the flagship's engine section. The missiles were small, but they were armed with Jigok warheads. They burrowed into the enemy ship and detonated. The flagship's engines exploded. The massive vessel lost power. Emergency systems failed. And in his command center, Commander Reth watched in horror as his ship began to die around him. All hands abandoned ship. Reth screamed, but it was too late. The human fighters were circling, destroying every escape pod that tried to launch. Dae-ho's voice came through on an open channel. "No escape, Commander. You murdered helpless people. You showed them no mercy. Now you receive none." Reth died screaming as his ship broke apart around him. The battle lasted 6 hours. When it was over, the Keth fleet no longer existed. 8,000 ships had been reduced to scattered debris floating in the void. Human losses were less than 300 ships. The Keth had been warriors for 10,000 years. They had conquered 100 worlds. They had never lost a war. They lost this one in 6 hours. Admiral Sunwoo opened a channel to the Keth homeworld. High Sovereign Keth appeared on screen. His scales were pale. His eyes were wide with terror. "We surrender," the High Sovereign said quickly. "We accept all your terms. Please, stop the attack." Sunwoo looked at him with cold eyes. "Surrender is for soldiers. You attacked healers." The High Sovereign made a sound of pure fear. "Please, we were wrong." Commander Reth acted without authority. "We never wanted this." You celebrated when he showed you the footage. You called it a great victory. You said human compassion was weakness. Sunwoo leaned forward. "You were right about one thing. Compassion is our nature. But mercy must be earned. What do you want?" "We will give you anything. I want the leaders who ordered the attack. I want the soldiers who carried it out. I want them to face trial before a galactic tribunal. And I want your people to watch." The High Sovereign hesitated. "You are not going to destroy us?" "No, we are not going to become you." Human troops landed on Keth Prime 3 hours later. They did not burn cities. They did not massacre civilians. They occupied hospitals, schools, and shelters. They protected Keth children from their own panicking government in the capital city. Human soldiers handed out food and medical supplies to Keth civilians who cowered in fear, expecting death. Instead, they received kindness. "Why?" asked a young Keth female, clutching her child. "We killed your healers. Why do you help us?" The human soldier, a young woman named Sergeant Yuna, looked at her with tired eyes. Because we are not you. Because your children did not attack the Hana. Because if we become monsters to defeat monsters, then the monsters win. The Keth could not understand. It made no sense to them. You defeat your enemy and then show them mercy? You destroy their fleet and then feed their hungry? But slowly, as days passed, they began to understand. The humans were not weak. They had proven that beyond any doubt. They had shattered the greatest military power in the sector in a single day. The humans were something else. Something the Keth had never encountered before. The humans were strong enough to choose. Mercy. Captain Hyung stood on the surface of Keth Prime, watching human and Keth soldiers work together to clear rubble from a damaged building. Inside were civilians trapped by the collapse. Both species worked to save them. Lieutenant Daeho stood beside her. His eyes were still haunted, but something had changed in them. Some of the cold fury had faded. Is this what my father would have wanted? He asked quietly. Hyung nodded slowly. Your father dedicated his life to saving others. Even at the end, he stood for what he believed. The best way to honor him is to be the healer he was, even when every part of you wants revenge. Daeho watched a human medic treating a wounded Keth child. The child was crying. The medic was gentle and patient. We won the war, Daeho said. Yes, but this... He gestured at the scene before them. This is how we win the peace. The reckoning was complete. The Keth had learned what happens when you mistake human kindness for weakness. They had learned that humans could be the most terrifying warriors in the galaxy. But more importantly, they had learned that humans chose not to be. They chose mercy. They chose to heal even those who had hurt them, and that was more frightening than any weapon. 1 year had passed since the Joe even knows who had hurt them, and that was more frightening than any weapon. 1 year had passed since the Battle of Keth Prime. The galaxy was different now. Everyone could feel it. Something had shifted in the balance of power, in the understanding of what humanity truly was. The space station Haven floated at the edge of neutral space. It was the largest structure ever built by cooperative effort of multiple species. Here, representatives from all 47 members of the Galactic Compact gathered for the most important summit in galactic history. Ambassador Minji walked through the grand hall with quiet confidence. She was humanity's voice at this summit. She was 53 years old with sharp eyes and a calm smile. Before the Hana massacre, she had been a diplomat focused on trade agreements and cultural exchanges. Now she carried the weight of humanity's new role in the galaxy. The hall was enormous, filled with species of every shape and size. Some walked on 2 legs. Some floated through the air. Some had no bodies at all, just energy patterns that shifted and glowed. They all turned to watch as Minji took her place at the central podium. But before she could speak, there was another presentation. Nurse Han Suman walked into the hall. She moved slowly, still bearing the scars from the massacre. Her arms showed the marks of burns where falling metal had hit her. Her face carried new lines of pain and healing. Beside her walked 11 children. 7 humans. 4 Vareth. They were the children she had saved when the Hana was dying. They held hands as they walked. A chain of small survivors following the woman who had shielded them with her own body. The hall fell completely silent. Suman stood before the gathered representatives of the galaxy. Her voice was not loud, but it carried to every corner of the hall. 1 year ago, I was a nurse on a hospital ship called the Hana. We had no weapons. We carried only medicine and hope. Our mission was simple. Heal everyone who needed healing, regardless of species or conflict. She paused, looking around at the alien faces watching her. The Keth attacked us without warning. They murdered our patients in their beds. They killed doctors who had taken oaths to protect life. They executed my captain when he refused to kneel before them. One of the children, the little boy named June, squeezed her hand. She squeezed back. I survived because I hid. I hid with these children in a dark cargo hold while monsters walked above us. I listened to the sounds of people dying. People I knew. People I loved. People who had done nothing wrong except try to help others. Her voice cracked slightly, but she continued. I do not tell you this for sympathy. I tell you this so you understand what was lost, and what must never be lost again. She stepped back, and Ambassador Minji took her place. Thank you. Nurse Han, your testimony will be recorded in the permanent archives of the Compact. Minji looked at the assembled representatives. Now, we must decide what comes next. She activated a holographic display. It showed the aftermath of the battle at Keth Prime, the destroyed fleet, the human occupation, the trials that had followed. The leaders of the Keth Dominion who ordered the attack on the Hana have been convicted of crimes against civilization. They will spend the rest of their lives in prison. Not executed, not tortured, simply removed from power and held accountable for their actions. Murmurs ran through the hall. Many species had expected humanity to be more brutal in its justice. The restraint surprised them. Some of you expected us to destroy the Keth completely, to burn their worlds, to make them an example that would never be forgotten. Minji's voice was firm. We chose not to do that, not because we could not. You saw what our fleet did in 6 hours. We could have continued. We could have killed billions. She paused. We stopped because victory was not the goal. Justice was the goal. Protecting the innocent was the goal. We do not seek empire. We do not seek revenge. We seek a galaxy where what happened to the Hana can never happen again. The hall was silent, waiting. Humanity proposes the Hana Memorial Accords. These accords establish one simple principle. Medical ships, regardless of species, are inviolable. They cannot be attacked. They cannot be boarded. They cannot be used as targets in any conflict. Any species that violates this principle will face the unified response of the entire Galactic Compact. She looked around the hall, and humanity volunteers to lead the enforcement fleet. Not because we want to fight, because we have proven that we will fight to protect healers. We will fight to protect the helpless. We will do what must be done. The Vareth ambassador rose. You ask us to trust humans with military leadership of the Compact. How do we know you will not use this power for conquest? Minji nodded at the question. A fair concern. Here is our answer. Any enforcement action must be approved by majority vote of the Compact. We will not act alone. We will serve as the sword, but you will decide when the sword is drawn. Another ambassador, a crystalline being from a world of ice, spoke up. You showed mercy to the Keth. They killed your healers, and you fed their hungry. You destroyed their fleet, and you healed their wounded. Many of us do not understand this. Minji smiled slightly. Then let me explain. We are human. Our history is filled with terrible wars. We nearly destroyed ourselves multiple times. We learned, through oceans of blood and mountains of corpses, that revenge only creates more revenge. That cruelty breeds more cruelty. The only way to break the cycle is to choose mercy, even when it hurts. Even when every instinct screams for destruction. She looked directly at the crystalline being.